tips, insights and advice from industry experts, keeping you connected in the legal community. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome along to episode 4 of In Discussion with Denovo, connecting the legal community with interviews, insights and advice from industry experts. I'm here as always with my colleague Stephen Hill, Operations Director at Denovo, and our guest today, Ross Yuill, Solicitor Advocate and Director at the Glasgow Law Practice. So before we get into the discussion, I'll just give you a bit of background about GLP and Ross himself. So formerly known as Karen Company, Ross's firm have traded as a Glasgow Law Practice since 2012. They have offices across Glasgow, Baillieston, Cambuslang, Muirhead and the Salt Market. All of their lawyers live and work in Glasgow. They're a local high street firm and have been providing legal advice and services since 1986. As I said, Ross is a solicitor advocate. He's got extended rights of audience. He has extensive experience of conducting criminal trials. He spends much of his working day in court, not at the moment, appearing on behalf of accused persons who find themselves in need of specialist advice. His client base can range from young, vulnerable accused to businessmen and women needing very specialised advice. In addition to matters within his firm, Ross has also held the following external positions. So he's a former president of the Glasgow Bar Association, member of the GBA Executive Committee since 2009, a council member of the Royal Faculty of Procurators in Glasgow, Scottish Legal Aid Board Quality Assurance Peer Reviewer, Vice President of the Society of Solicitor Advocates, council member of the Law Society of Scotland, and last but not least, and probably most important, gaffer of the world famous Golden Generation GBA football team. So a lot going on in Ross's world. So Ross and his team at GLP are really at the coalface of the changing business environment that has led many firms to start reevaluating the way in which they offer legal services. Ross will go into detail about how GLP have been acutely aware that clients are now looking to obtain legal services in a remote digital format. He'll then outline the steps that they have taken to address this challenge and how recent events led them to launch GLP On Demand online legal services. Ross is also going to give a bit of practical insight into how high street firms are adapting to COVID-19. He'll explain how the current situation has really dragged firms into the modern era, for some anyway, with lawyers traditionally being poor adopters of new working practices. I think everyone probably agree with that. We all know that most firms are now thinking about implementing ways of working that may have been parked due to being busy really in their practices. We'll then outline how the change in expectation of clients has led to new methods of communication, agile working, increased use in tech, and I suppose putting a foolproof plan in place to survive as a local business. So thanks very much for joining us, Ross.
Good afternoon. Thanks very much for having me.
No worries. So what I'll do is quickly just run through the agenda. And then just prior to that, almost forgot.
Very important, this part.
Very important. I don't know if anyone attended our caseload launch event last year, but just in case you're not sure who Ross is, let us just show you exactly the calibre of the man that's on with us today.
In a world where paper files tower over the heads of lawyers,
I can't do this anymore. We have to change.
The need for help has never been so necessary.
We're just too busy.
You need help saving time?
Yes.
Help saving money?
Yes.
You need heroes to reduce the pain in your daily working life.
But who? Who can do it all?
Only one company offers a whole practice management software solution that can bring balance to the firm. Follow our heroes on a journey towards building a more modern law practice.
Let's do this.
This year, it's time to go Denovo.
Ross, it gives us goosebumps every single time we watch it. I think we'll all agree an Oscar-worthy performance in our mock movie trailer we used at launch, and thanks again for participating in that, Ross.
No
So the agenda for today, we'll go through a bit of an overview of GLP On Demand. We've got some questions for Ross in the discussion, a bit of advice that he'll be offering, and there's a Q&A. We'll talk about next week's episode, how you can get in touch with Ross to have a chat afterwards, and then how to watch again. So we'll dive into the chat if that's okay, Ross. So can you give us some insight into how challenging recent events have been for the legal profession?
Yeah, no problem. I think the starting point would be to say incredibly challenging. Almost overnight, the tap was turned off in the majority of our fees. And as you'll probably know, firms like ours work on a individual transactional basis, so from client to client. And immediately, as soon as the lockdown was announced, the majority of our clients weren't really keen to spend money. The public generally were, I suppose, frozen. Very quickly, the courts started to close. The property market started to shut down, so almost all of our conveyancing transactions were paused or some cancelled. And obviously one of the big challenges for us is the way that we get paid in lots of our cases is at the end of a case, so whether that be the end of a court case or when a conveyancing transaction settles, and none of that was happening. So that was an immediate challenge for us as an individual business. But nobody was really prepared. So the courts weren't prepared. They weren't prepared around technology. Firms weren't prepared around home working, particularly high street firms where I think for a long time people wanting to work from home was seen as maybe slacking off or something that people wished they could do but really couldn't do. And we just weren't set up for that initially. And we now know that people will homework, but they still miss the environment, the social aspect of going to work. They might not miss their commute every day, but they miss lots of aspects of actually going into the office. So we had to very quickly move to use the technology. I mean, we're in a lucky position. We had case management in place. There's lots of firms who don't have a case management system and then had to try to work from home, and that was obviously very difficult. And these were all things that we were kind of putting off to another day around technology, and we just had to adopt them very quickly. I mean, internally, the government's furlough scheme has helped. It's allowed us, obviously, to retain staff. We're on the furlough scheme. That's helped massively. Unfortunately, it doesn't always help all of our staff, including partners who, because of a self-employed status, don't always qualify for that scheme. So that's been another challenge, which I think lots of principals in firms are facing, along with the obvious cash flow issues that come. And then there's been day-to-day stuff as well, like managing staff remotely. We've never had to do it before. We've had to worry about the mental health, well-being of staff while they're at home. We're really asking staff to work harder, but they're at home, they're all worried, they're nervous about what's going on. They might be homeschooling their kids, and we're combining that with the people who are not furloughed having to work very hard in a very, very difficult situation. Some of them might be in dual career households where there's two people working from home. And, as a person that goes to court, another concern was actually going to court and being worried about your own health during all of that. So that's an example of some of the challenges there's been for our firm, certainly.
Sure. And so as a high street firm, how are firms like yours particularly affected?
I think we're impacted massively as high street firms. I mean, immediately, a very simple thing was that our physical offices were closed. So we have an instant loss of local business. Again, back to the fact that we work in a case-to-case, person-to-person type of environment. I mean, we're not like, for example, say an accountancy firm who have retained work and a couple of times a year they do clients' accounts. We don't have that type of work. So that was an issue for us and something that happened immediately. I mean, we do a combination of legal aid and private work. We found the courts being closed. Again, I've already mentioned that. We've also found in the area of work that I do a massive reduction in the level of prosecution in the areas of work that some of my partners in the firm deal with. House purchases have essentially ground to a halt, although we have managed to see some transactions being completed, but it's been very difficult. There's been worry around lending for mortgages. I mean, simple things in our conveyancing department. Surveyors aren't working. We can't get home reports done. People can't view a house. So how do they buy a house? And all of that's really paused. And I think the best way to describe it is people are frozen. They just don't want to take a risk just now.
Yeah.
And, you know, not every firm's got a reserve of cash. And it's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
You know, people are worried about retaining employment for all of their staff. You know, and the types of work that we do in the high street relies on the public. It relies also on other people like financial advisors, mortgage brokers who refer work to us. A lot of them are not working. And as I say, back to the courts, you know, there aren't very many new cases. And those are all challenges for high street firms. You know, one of the big saving graces has been that the Scottish Legal Aid Board have moved quickly, and they're often criticised by practitioners, but they've moved very quickly, and they're now able to carry out interim payments for legal aid cases. But that doesn't cure the fact that maybe in June and July, once you've, I suppose, cashed all your chips, where we're going to be. So those are the challenges for firms like ours.
Right. And with that then, we've been talking quite a lot about the importance of community, be that in, you know, our personal lives, coming together, supporting each other. We're all doing that as best we can. So what, you have a community of clients, so what have GLP done to ensure they're looking out for your community of clients at the moment?
Well, just to give a very brief sort of backdrop, we rebranded our firm in 2012. So we've had an online presence, a fairly strong online presence all the way through from 2006. And obviously we've been working on that over a period of years. But almost immediately upon the lockdown happening, we decided we needed to react. I mean, we've been proactive for a period of time, but we then needed to be reactive. And we came up with the idea of GLP On Demand. And that really came about because of client demand to move to offering legal services in a more technological way. Because as clients, as people, members of the public, they're allowing more tech into their lives and they want their legal services that way. I mean, there's a generation of people now that we're interacting with who live their life on Wi-Fi, on demand, online shopping. They don't buy a newspaper, you know, they use Alexa. And it would seem strange that legal services shouldn't be as accessible as other services that people use in their life. So that was how GLP On Demand came about. Now, the appreciate is not unique. I mean, obviously people have websites and offer services online, but we tried to make sure that it was the very best it could be. So using some of the people that we work with, so Moore Legal Technology, Denovo, of course. We moved quickly to really offer everything that we could do in the office online. So that was simple things like making a will, drafting a power of attorney. We very quickly said, right, let's do that. Let's do it by Zoom. Let's do it on a WhatsApp call. And we did that within a couple of weeks of the lockdown. We started to communicate with clients in ways we probably planned to do, but we never got around to it. So on our website, we've introduced live chat. It's been a bit challenging because I've been one of the people having to man it, and it can be slightly challenging. We've introduced clear online payment methods. We've been introducing the ability to book appointments directly on via our website into solicitors' diaries. So these are all things that we've been doing. And in the last couple of weeks, we've moved even on to podcasting, and we've set up the GLP podcasts, which are effectively updates around work that we do based around the COVID-19 situation. Now that was a bit challenging. Fortunately, some of my colleagues, our senior partner Robert Fitzpatrick and others, were very quick to say, yeah, let's have a go at it, we'll do some podcasts. So those were all things that we did quickly to try to react.
Sure. So technology's playing a pretty big role in how you're now delivering your services and communicating with your clients. So how important is technology for a high street firm and, say, sole practitioner? And even though I suppose we know the importance of it, has there been any resistance to implementing these new ways of working?
Yeah, well, it's a good point. I mean, technology is now vital for high street firms. I mean, it's been there for a long time, obviously. I mean, larger commercial firms have been using technology, but sole practitioner and, I suppose, small to medium-sized high street firms have really not been great adopters. I mean, simple things like the ability to work remotely for a lot of sole practitioners or small firms was seen as something that just couldn't be done. You know, working at home, well, you'd have to cart all of the files home in the boot of your car, and a lot of lawyers will. I was famously known as somebody who carried files about in the boot of my car by colleagues, but it's something that people did for years and years. So they're slow adopters. There's lots of firms in Glasgow, I think, still operating as if it's the 80s or the early 90s, and aren't keen to move forward. And I think they're going to have to. I mean, the cost, people worry about the cost, but the cost for small firms is fairly small. I mean, you're talking about £50 or £60 a user to have a good quality case management system. So it can no longer be the cost that's putting people off. Mm-hmm. You know, there was some resistance from members of staff, obviously. But I mean, use an example, 6 weeks ago, I'd never heard of Zoom. I don't think anybody had, really. And I mean, we're now all taking part in Zoom drinks and Zoom quizzes and Zoom partners meetings. And I mean, my son, who's 7, last night had a Zoom football training session. So, I mean, people are adopting things, but lawyers are slow. But I think it's a necessity now.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of people we deal with, I mean, we're dealing with people maybe I suppose roughly under the age of 60, maybe even under the age of 50 a lot of the time. These are people who have smartphones, they're on Netflix, they're on iPads, they all use FaceTime. You know, and people have the sort of Amazon standard as their benchmark. You know, they want to order, they want an email back saying what's going on, they want an update. You know, they want information pushed to them.
Yeah, it's almost an expectation of automation, isn't it? That, you know, live chat, etc., which I know you guys have now have on your site. But that, you're right, the expectation of the generation that are really, you know, it's going to start buying houses. And
absolutely, people in their 20s, early 20s, first-time buyers. I mean, see, you know, we've spoken to clients, we've taken a bit of a poll, and actually for people under 30, getting a phone call now is almost rude. for them. You know,
Yeah.
they always think, they look at their phone and think, why is this person phoning me? What are they doing? You know, people almost want to buy a house. Genuinely, they want to look at it on the internet. They want to put an offer in by, you know, making contact with a lawyer, and then they want to really buy the house without doing anything else. They don't want. They don't want involvement. You know, and I'll give you a good example just to finish off. But you know, we've recently adopted something called Amicus, which is an ability for us to deal on an online basis with our money laundering requirements. And even in our firm, up until recently, we were having people having to get in their cars, drive to one of our 4 offices, hand in their passport, their bank statement, have it photocopied, sometimes put it into the DX to another office, to go into a basket to be taken on to somebody else who then processed it. And now we can use the online Amicus system, which means for less than £10 added onto the transaction, essentially the person can just do all of that from their laptop or their iPad in their house. And I mean, it sounds mad now, but you know, we're starting to use it, and I can't see how we can possibly go back.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, we had the guys from Amicus on a couple of weeks ago, and it was really interesting hearing from them. And obviously, we've now got the integration with Amicus as well, which is handy. But I think you're right that, you know, with expectation levels and the need for instant either access to information or to actually deliver a service is now paramount. And
absolutely,
you know, we're doing, I suppose from our side as well, we're doing as much as we can to partner with the likes of, say, Amicus and whoever else, to try and make life as easy as possible for the likes of yourselves as a client of ours, but and any other firm who partner with us. Because, you know, it's about time saving ultimately, isn't it? I mean, we talk about a lot, you know, and we've used this in, you know, blogs and different things that we've done in the past, where talk about, you know, just don't have time. We just don't have time. We don't have time. I think this, and Graham McKinstry spoke a little bit about this last week when we had him on, and he was talking about trying to, you know, future-proof the business. But this is a time for reflection, and you know, he made a good point of saying now for firms, you spend a lot of time working in your firm. It's now time to start working on your firm, and that really resonated with me, and I know resonated with a lot of people who were listening. And it's exactly what you're saying. What you're doing now is trying to look at every opportunity there is to ensure that you can still deliver the fantastic service that you've always delivered, but just in new ways. And if that results then in, you know, a bit of time saved and potentially increased productivity, and allows you to focus on actually just doing what you do, which is serving your clients and helping them.
That's the thing, you know, we've been forced into it, but
yeah,
we've got to do it. I mean, what's the alternative?
Yeah,
high street firms, I mean, we can't operate like it's 25 years ago.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't do that anymore. And I suppose the question is, will some of this stuff stay? Will it still?
Yeah, well, that was actually my next question. So I was going to say to you, that was, you know, what is your vision for how legal services are offered post-lockdown? Do you think that some of these changes you've mentioned will be adopted longer term?
Yeah, I don't know about my own vision, but I mean, fundamentally, this whole situation is going to alter how we all expect to receive different types of services in our life. So I can't see how legal services can be immune from that moving forward. You know, I don't think all lawyers are going to decide that they need to work from home. I mean, that won't happen. People need to go into offices, and as we said earlier, you know, it's better for people sometimes to have the interaction and the issues that, you know, working in a solitary environment can have. But I think what it's probably done is it's fast-tracked for firms, particularly high street firms, a move towards the possibility of home working, you know, agile working. I mean, this was unheard of for firms like ours in January, and I know that might sound a bit crazy, but, you know, we weren't looking to be making people work from home in January. You know, firms might even look at their office space, whether or not they need all of the physical office space they have, their locations, could it be done a bit more remotely or under one roof? I mean, I think that's very double-edged, but it's something people think about. So the one positive out of this might be that it will push people to work in a different way. I mean, simple things like, we used to be put off by the fact that we didn't all have great Wi-Fi connections at home. Everybody's got that now. Everybody's got their smart devices. We're able to show that Zoom does work. So, I mean, are we seriously going to go back to a situation where we're starting to send faxes again, or hard copy letters, or even, multiple phone calls? I just don't think that's going to happen. And I mean, with my experience in the courts will have to adapt and are adapting, in fairness, but it's taken a wee bit of time. I mean, to the ways of working, video hearings, video calls and video hearings are happening. The courts are starting to accept things by email, things like writs or productions in cases that they didn't used to. And I wonder even if it might lead to a situation where the courts have less members of the public, even less accused people attending for administrative hearings. In the summary criminal courts, things like intermediate diets that some people listening will know about. We bring along 30 or 40 members of the public into a room for what's effectively a 2-minute administrative hearing that could potentially be dealt with by an email or some sort of video call or whatever. So,
sure.
Those are things that might change. I mean, there are certain sort of legal providers and people involved in the legal system, like the Traffic Commissioner, I think, was one that has been dealing with virtual hearings for a bit of time. I mean, we've seen estate agents, slightly unrelated, but estate agents now doing virtual viewings. And one of the things I've been using, which has been very good, is the ability to do prison visits by iPad using an iPad system, which means you can actually see your client in prison without physically going there. So those are all things which I'm certain will stay.
Right. Okay. No, that's all been fantastic. Really, really interesting. I think we do have a couple of questions that have came through for you, if that's all right, Ross. So what I'll do is I'll pass you over to Stephen, who's got those questions for you now.
Okay, we've had a couple of questions during that. If you've got any more, then just submit them in as we're answering these ones at the moment. So first one is, Ross, how quickly were you able to set up the on-demand service?
Well, very quickly. I think within about a fortnight of the lockdown. I think the lockdown was around about the 23rd of March. So within about a fortnight, and that was because I think firstly we were well placed. We had a site that was there and able to be tweaked. But the guys at MLT, Moore Legal Technology, some of the guys at Denovo helped us and were really good at guiding us through what we needed to do. We had the kind of general idea as a firm, but we needed the technical help. We started to use social media more. We're in the process of moving to direct marketing to clients. As I said earlier, we also moved on to podcasts quite quickly. That took a bit more time though, Stephen. That wasn't something that could be done quickly. People were a bit apprehensive about that. I mentioned some of my colleagues in the firm who were very good with that and were quick adopters, but it did take a bit of time to get all of that tidied up. So the short answer is a couple of weeks, but we're still tweaking things, whatever we are, 6 or 7 weeks or more than that down the line.
All right, and the second question before we go on to some of the funnier questions which are starting to come through, do you think all high street firms will survive?
That's it. Well, I suppose there's kind of two schools of thought, I guess. I think the firms who are not prepared to adopt a change, so the firms that are still working like it's the 80s or the early 90s, and maybe unfortunately firms that only have one practice area will have the biggest issue, I would have thought. And, you know, for example, colleagues and friends of mine who have criminal-only firms, I know they're very worried because there's going to be June and July with no court, with no fees, and how they're going to get through that is going to be very difficult. They also have concerns, for example, about the levels of prosecution being very low. Will they come back? That's not clear. And some of these firms may need to adapt, change their skill set, look at combining with other firms. Because even if you look at, I suppose, at the age, Stephen, of the high street practitioner, I mean, you're talking about people probably in their 40s and 50s. You don't see a lot of young, up-and-coming high street solicitors. There's not many of them. I mean, they are there, obviously. There's not many people setting up high street firms, so that's a concern. So that would be one part of it. The second part, I would say, I think more positively, and in a positive note, is firms that are multidiscipline, who have local offices in areas around Glasgow or other cities. There might just be a desire from the public, from clients, to shop local. They don't want to get a train or a bus into the city centre or the town centre. And they might want to come and use their local firms. I mean, there might be an increased need, I think, for legal aid, particularly in areas like family law and difficult areas like that. And clients will be more conscious of cost. I don't know how many clients post-lockdown are wanting to pay £200 an hour to a lawyer. So possibly lawyers will need to look at their hourly rates, block feeing, or even options at how people can pay up for legal services on a monthly basis. I know a lot of firms do that, but putting in place proper payment schemes to allow people to pay. So I think I think firms will survive, but it's going to be difficult. And, you know, I'm positive. I mean, I'm not negative, but I'm also acutely aware there's a lot of challenges for the firms to get there. But firms might come out of this lockdown period a bit leaner, and that might unfortunately mean staff levels, it might mean reduced costs, and they might well have far more modern working practices. So there's positives there as well.
All right, that's really, really good. The last question I've got then is, what constitutes sufficient time on the park before a player can be expected to perform a header?
Oh, controversial.
This relates to me. This relates to a recent appearance by me when in a football team where, having substituted myself onto the park, I didn't get involved in challenging for a header because I quote, wasn't warmed up yet, so I didn't bother. So that's what that's talking about, and I know that must be somebody that I know that's put that question in, and I'll find out secretly who that is later. But thanks very much.
They have asked to remain anonymous, so you have to do your own criminal investigation to find out who that was.
Thanks very much.
Okay, so you can find Ross is available for a chat anytime. So feel free to drop him a line following this session to ask any additional questions. And next week's episode will be in discussion with Chris Davidson and Dave Kerr, Directors of Legal Marketing Specialists, Moore Legal Technology. In this episode, Chris and Dave will discuss the impact coronavirus has had on consumer behaviour, what trends are emerging, and look at the tools and technologies their clients are utilising to maintain business continuity. This episode will take place at the earlier time of 2 p.m, and a registration link will be sent out in due course. This episode has been recorded and will be available to watch on our website in the next 24 hours. The link is here, and it will also send you'll also be sent directly a link once it's ready to view. That's episode 4 ended. I'd like to thank Ross and everyone listening for joining us this afternoon. Finally, I would just like to say, stay home, stay safe, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. We will see you next time for more In Discussions with Denovo.
Thanks very much, Ross.
Thanks very much for having me. Cheers, guys.
Cheers.